Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was open A-class cars on Forza Motorsport 5. Our first race went to the Road Atlanta circuit, and turn 1 was relatively smooth, with the exception of a Ferrari Testarossa that got things a bit wrong and went to play in the sand. Everybody made it around the first corner here relatively neatly, and then everybody just about made it over the top of the hill. I think there was a Lamborghini doing a bit of rallycross, but yeah, the start went remarkably smoothly. Considering it's quite a fast first corner you end up, and quite a wide one. People like to go sort of 2 and 3 wide into turn 1 here, but everybody got out of it perfectly okay as we head up towards the very long back straight. Road Atlanta can be quite a difficult track to build a car for, because yes, you are going to want quite a lot of straight line speed, because there is a humongous straight. Sort of half the track is straight. However, you definitely want a car with some grip. There are some fast corners, there are some nasty corners around here. The Celica we're following was trying to make it 3 wide down the back straight and slightly ran out of tarmac, and then did it. Well, it is a rally car, so you can get away with a little bit of rally. I'm surprised actually it can manage to hold so much speed, having been on the grass, and almost keep up with a Viper. Quite a few people would make a mistake into the final chicane. There's a little bit of a crest over there that if you don't have much grip, especially if you don't have much sort of rear end grip, the car can just kick out over a little crest. So yeah, a few people ended up in the gravel trap on the opening lap. It was very crowded as we came to the long straight on the second lap with yeah, that's a lot of cars in one place. Tends not to end particularly well. On this occasion though, the I think it's a Firebird Trans Am we're following at the moment, managed to make up a couple of spots and was trying to chase down a Shelby Daytona 205s going alongside. I think it's a Buzzbox RX-7. Unfortunately, we would get a bit of a lag spike at the worst possible place for this group of cars. You don't want a lag spike when you're trying to get on the brakes. It's incredibly hard to know what you're doing. Unfortunately, the RX-7 and Celica were both caught out. The RX-7 ended up bumping off the Firebird there. It's a nasty, when you have a lag spikes on Forza, it basically sort of slows the game down. It's a weird thing, and if you're in a heavy braking zone, incredibly easy to not really know what you're doing quite. So yeah, that was a little bit of a shame, because then we ended up with a few broken cars and cars sort of quite a long way down out of position. This Lamborghini Diablo was trying to make his way through the field after an eventful first lap, and this had lots of speed. You saw how far back it was from the 205 there. It breezes up alongside him. Still got a lot of work to do though, to go around the outside of the first part of the chicane. He's on the inside for the next bit. If you take that line, you're probably going to run a little bit wide. However, the Peugeot doesn't have enough acceleration, doesn't have quite enough straight line speed to do anything about it, and the Lamborghini can keep the position, although it does get a pretty damn big slide on around that final corner. You want grip for that final corner, and that's a scary, scary place if you've got a car that's primarily straight line speed based. At the front, things were pretty damn close between a Lancia 037 and a Dodge Viper. Good to see a Viper up there in contention, battling for the lead. The Viper was having a bit of a tough time finding a way past the Lancia though, because it just didn't have the straight line speed. The Lancia was the quicker of the two, and so while the Viper can get to the inside here, the Viper can get the lead, the Lancia sort of thinks about having a look into the next corner and then decides better not to. But it doesn't really matter if the Lancia gets past in there, because now we've got a long straight and the Lancia is simply going to pull away. It's not, you know, if you have a car with all the straight line speed, it's not a guarantee that you will do well, but having that little bit extra straight line speed in a car can certainly help, because it makes it very, very hard to overtake. The Viper was really struggling to find a place to overtake. This was the closest this time round that the Viper got into the chicane. Tries to go the long way around the corner. Again, you end up running a little bit wide if you take that line, and the Lancia pounces going up the inside over the crest. Also, the Viper gets a little bit unlucky, just puts a wheel on the dirt, and you can find that if you end up doing that, your car sort of gets sucked along and you can't get the car off the grass. It's a strange thing that happens from time to time. But yeah, the Viper ended up having to go, or went across the grass a little bit. Around the first corner, the Viper took that sort of just a too shallow a line and couldn't carry the speed, so the Lancia kept the lead, and I was suddenly up with the lead pair. Further back, we had the Lamborghini was still determined to make progress, coming up against an Audi R8. The R8 was, well, it looked pretty good through the corners, but lacked the straight line speed. It was struggling with the straight stuff, so it could hold the Lamborghini off for sort of 2/3 of the lap, and then for this final third, there was nothing it could do. It's just nothing you can defend, or you can do to defend against a car with that much more straight line speed. You see the Diablo has flown off, and the Audi is far too far back to even think about doing anything into the final chicane, and the Audi would continue to struggle and slowly fall back through the field as various cars would fly past. This time we've got the classic American vehicles as the Daytona and the Firebird Trans Am go flying past. They make up so much distance down that straight. However, they are not as good through the corners, and the Audi's trying to come back at them through the chicane. Can't quite do it on that particular corner. However, I would imagine it's quite scary through this final corner with the cars that have. I mean, it was quite scary in my blooming Ferrari. My Ferrari has quite decent grip. So yeah, in these much more speed-based cars, it can be quite scary around this track, and you can see the amount of time that Audi can make up in one corner. It's closed up pretty much all of the time it lost down that start-finish straight. The Audi can regain through turn 1. I think there was a little bit of a lag spike as they came over the top of the hill, and unfortunately the Shelby would run a little bit wide, loses the position to the Firebird, but keeps the Audi behind him. At the front though, it was to be victory for the Lancia. I would get past the Viper and then promptly spin my car, which wasn't the cleverest thing that I've ever done. So while my Ferrari was very quick, I managed to bin it. So victory would go to the Lancia 037. The Viper would get a second place, and the Lamborghini Diablo, amazingly, would come third. I was right behind him in fourth. It was quite an eventful race at Road Atlanta. Our second race, and we head to the Catalunya full circuit. Not very often that we go to the full circuit, but since we were driving some faster cars, I thought I would give it a go. As everybody tears down towards the first corner, we would again have the problem with smoke down here. For the cars further back, it's not too bad for these guys at the front. The cars further back, you just really struggle to see what's going on. I think there was a Formula E in something there that got battered because somebody just didn't see it was there because it was surrounded by smoke. Yeah, it's it can be quite a problem when everybody's sort of under brake. I don't know what causes it quite as well, because I'm pretty sure it's not 16 people locking up. I'm pretty sure most people know how to brake. I don't know. It's Forza being a little bit funny. There's an LFA going quite sideways through that corner. The Viper is trying to find a way past a 205 with the most spectacular rear wing. It's got a multi-story rear wing on the Peugeot. There's a Lotus doing a little bit of rallycross. The Catalunya can be a little bit of a hard track to overtake on. It helps when the car you're racing runs a little bit wide, and in running wide, the Peugeot got himself caught up behind the skyline, and the Viper finds himself almost inheriting the lead. I had, again, another busy first lap trying to make my way up from 16th on the grid. In my Ferrari was actually a very good overall car. It had decent straight line speed and decent cornering grip, provided I didn't do anything silly. I almost thought about making it 3 wide over the top of the hill. I tried to get up the inside of the Shelby, as both the Shelby and I think it's a Toyota or Subaru, well, the same difference. Yeah, as they were going side by side, I tried to get up the inside while they were running a little bit wide in my much better handling car. The Subaru or Toyota, whichever version it is, outbrakes himself at the hairpin, allowing me a nice and straightforward pass, and then right onto the Shelby that just can't turn as sharply as my 360. I dive up the inside. We keep things neat and tidy. The Shelby tries his best to keep it around, sort of going the long way round. Can't do it. Just doesn't have the grip as an LFA goes for a spin in the background. However, the Shelby was very, very quick in a straight line. KTM Crossbow was trying to make his way back through the field. There was, again, a couple of collisions. I ended up getting involved in somebody else's crash as they spun around. I dropped down the field. There's my Ferrari. KTM also had a similar thing, I think. So me and the Crossbow were trying to make our way through the field. Having done lots of overtaking on the opening laps, we then had to do it all over again as the field was more spread out. So yeah, the KTM got past the Peugeot, I got past the Skyline. The downside of the Crossbow is it doesn't have very much straight line speed. Good through the corners, very good through the corners. Can be a little bit twitchy though. Just lacks that straight line speed down this long straight. The Daytona flew away down the straight, although it would take about 2 corners for the KTM to be right back behind him. At the front, it was the battle of a Viper against a Diablo. Interesting, interesting battle. I like both of these cars, actually. Yeah, again, the Viper had managed to kind of escape away at the front for a couple of, or for 3 or 4 laps before the Diablo eventually caught up to him. Both cars running a little bit wide. I guess, well, there's a big sort of curb through there that you can kind of clip and forces the car out wide. Diablo did a good job of not running into the back of the Viper. It was a similar story for the Viper as it had been in the first race. Viper with decent cornering grip, while the Diablo had all of the straight line speed. As I said, Catalonia not the easiest of tracks to overtake around. There are a couple of good overtaking spots. Your best bet is into turn 1. However, as the Viper runs wide, the Lamborghini tries getting up the inside. I'm amazed the Viper managed to hold it all the way around the outside. Little bit of a bump / lag. I'm not entirely sure quite what happens there. A little bit of a laggy replay. And the Viper quite graciously waits and gives the Diablo a bit of a chance. And then as they round the final corner, off goes the Lamborghini down the start fissure. It's not, again, it's not an absolutely humongous speed advantage, but it's more than enough to put him out of range by the time they get to the first corner. And while all of that had been going on, the KTM Crossbow had been catching up from 3rd place, and I was catching up in 4th. However, that would be it for the overtaking at the front. The Diablo would go on to take the victory. The Crossbow and the Viper would have it coming together, and I would inherit 2nd place. I was very slowly catching the Diablo by sort of 2 or 3 tenths a lap, I think it was. Absolutely ran out of laps. I was was far too far back in my Ferrari. So it would be victory for the Lamborghini. I would take 2nd place, and I believe the Crossbow ended up coming in 3rd. Further back, there wasn't a huge amount of racing actually in a lot of this. The field was quite spread out most of the time, but there was a large lap battle between a Shelby Daytona and a Ford GT40 as they're going past a lap down Lexus LFA. Coming up to the final few corners, this is a really tough place to overtake in these final corners. It's really too narrow and there's not a big enough braking zone. However, the GT40 is out of options. He knows the Daytona is quicker in a straight line, so has a big dive into the final corners. The Shelby's over the curbs, which doesn't help, puts him out wide on the exit. GT40's up the inside as they head towards the start-finish straight. However, the Shelby has got a lot more straight line speed, so it pulls out of the slipstream, very nearly gets the Ford. It was a close one, very close one between them two, but the Ford GT40 gets the 5th place, while the Shelby ends up in 6th. And then as they round the first corner, the game decides, no, I don't want the Shelby to be on the road anymore, and decides to throw it on its roof. Well, there are some more lag spikes for you. Our 3rd and final race would go to the Sebring full circuit. Again, I don't think we've ever used the full circuit. We may have done once or twice. I tend not to use the full circuit very often in Versus the Community, but I figured we'd give it a go since we're running at a bit faster cars. Turn 1 was slightly chaotic further back. Again, most of the front cars got through. A Lamborghini got turned around, and there's never a good thing to happen. I was caught up in it. I didn't really suffer any damage in it, but yeah, little bit of an incident on turn 1. However, most of the cars got through. We blast down towards one of the nasty hairpins, and it would be a bad place for there to be a lag spike. And sure enough, there was. The Aston Martin that we were riding with was a little bit cautious with the lag spike. The Bentley was a bit more caught out. I think that was an Escort as well that got caught out by the lag spike, putting the car in a slightly different position than they expected into a very big braking zone. Fortunately, that time, everybody got away without any major damage. A couple of cars got sent down the escape road. The Bentley did a good job of not ending up in the back of the Aston. It's not a good place to have a lag spike when you've got that bigger a braking zone. It's yeah, not really ideal. This was the battle for 2nd place between an Audi S4, I don't know if it's a Toyota or Subaru, one of the two. I think it's a Toyota GT86, and the Aston Martin. The final corner here is horrible with the bumps, and the GT86 was struggling with the rear end grip. There's a big slide on. The bumps there are absolutely horrible. They really are very nasty, especially if a car struggles with oversteer, and the Toyota certainly did struggle around that corner. And now they've got a Sierra Cosworth having a look up the inside into turn 1. Again, turn 1 is actually is a little bit bumpy. It's a strange corner, turn 1 here. You're sort of so wide, you almost get carried away and it's taking a bit too much speed, and the Toyota ended up out a little bit too wide and across the grass. This was a little bit of a strange race, actually, for quite a lot of it. There was a very long train of cars, but not a huge amount of overtaking was going on, and the overtaking that did go on was more somebody falling off the road and losing a number of positions. For example, here, a GT86 missed his braking into the hairpin, and then a stream of cars go past. There wasn't a huge amount of actual sort of proper overtaking, if you like. It was more of whoever didn't make a mistake around this track. There wasn't a huge number of broken cars on this particular one. There wasn't any really massive shunts. But yeah, there was just a train of vehicles, but not a huge amount going on. This Maserati was quick through the corners, one of the better cars through the corners, but again was struggling with the straight line speed, slower than the cars around him, and being pressured very much by a Bentley. Sebring is another track, can be a little bit hard to overtake at places. It is a long track, one of the longer tracks that you'll find in Forza 5. The Sierra has a problem with a curb, but it can be a little bit more awkward to overtake around this place, because a lot of the big braking zones have got very wide corners. So turn 1, the final corner we're coming up to now, yeah, very wide corners, and there are many different lines you can take. As it happens for this poor Maserati, was as I said, struggling with the straight line speed. The Bentley breezes past it. The Sierra got a little bit carried away. Was very quick at a straight line, couldn't quite make the corner. The Bentley's gone past the Diablo, and as we come down the start-finish straight, the Maserati is actually pretty damn close. Got better drive out of that final turn, but just a little bit too far back. The Lamborghini's just got the straight line speed to hold on as they come into turn 1. And ignore the random Trans Am there. That I don't know. It was a car that disconnected, and for some reason the replay has decided that it shall exist permanently in the place at which it disconnected. I don't know. It's done that before actually with something. I think it was a Rolls Royce in a pit lane somewhere. They got stuck in the replay. I don't know. It got a little bit confused. Yeah, as I said, not the most exciting of races. There was just a lot of cars were kind of close together, but not a huge amount was going on. At one stage, just became the battle of the third between the two mighty wings of the Aston Martin and Bentley. Fairly evenly matched in a straight line, them two, up until sort of the final few hundred metres. Then the Bentley really started to close, but was just a little bit too far back on that occasion to really profit, as the Aston Martin gets a bit of a slide out of the final corner. At the front, and it would be a Maserati MC12 that would take the victory by an absolute mile. This car, I think he started on pole or started very near the front and promptly vanished off the road. Certainly helped by the rest of us all squabbling over various positions. Yeah, the Maserati absolutely vanished up the road in this one. It would be the Audi S4 that would come in second, while the Bentley would take third place, and my Ferrari would end up in around 6th or 7th. Yeah, there was sort of there was a long train of cars that we could all see a vehicle in front of us and a vehicle behind us, but nobody was really catching anybody. It could have been a very exciting race, I think, at Sebring, had things been a little bit different and we'd all been very close on the track. Anyway, that is it for this week's one. The next FailRace versus the community shall be held on October the 2nd, that is a Thursday. It'll be taking place at 7 PM British summertime. We'll be racing on Forza 4, and the vehicles we will be using are B-Class French cars. Let's hope all of them manage to sort of stay reliable and make it to the end of the race. If you would like to sign up and take part, then you can go to our forums. There'll be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and that is where you sign up. However, that is it from me, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.